Well, if you told me at the start of the season that Geelong, Hawthorn, Brisbane and Collingwood would be playing the preliminary finals this week, I would have said, yep, that's probably about right. Welcome back to the CODE AFL Show. Preliminary finals weekend, got Josh Barnes with me and Glenn McFarlane on his CODE AFL Show debut.
Here we go, boys.
It's a big week, so he brought in the great man, Macca.
Not sure about that,
Good to have you with us.
But good to be in another preliminary final week anyway.
No, it's good to have some journalistic credibility on the couch with us here in the CODE AFL studio. Are we sick of these teams playing off against each other in the second last week of the finals? They've been so involved this century.
Are we the best three people to talk about that as we'll go into? And you're going to put your Hawthorn hat on in a second. I'm going to put on my Geelong hat. And Macca, you've got a Collingwood hat over
Where's
there.
Brisbane?
Yeah,
missed out,
Brisbane
so.
are all right. Do you remember something like this, Macca, in your time that these three have just dominated
I
for
feel
25
like,
years now?
yeah, absolutely. They are the teams. If you look at it, like there's been some other great teams this century, but these four teams have been outstanding the way they continually, other than a period there for the Brisbane Lions, it's been they've been up there so many years, haven't they? And I think the beauty of this is they're great matchups. Like any of the four teams left could have been playing against each other in a grand final, and you'll be saying, how good is this? So I think, there's genuine dislike and a little bit of fear, I think, Barnesy,
A little bit.
Geelong and Hawthorn. And you look at Collingwood and Brisbane, it's very much the same. You go back to the great battles of the 2002, 2003 season. And of course, that amazing grand final in 2023. There's so much there, Ed. I think we're set for an absolute ripper on Friday night and then on Saturday as well.
So I think at the start of the season, this is a top four that a few people would have had, glancing into their crystal balls. But a month ago, the team that everyone was most excited about was probably Adelaide. And how disappointing is it for them that they're not their first minor premiers since 1983 to go out in straight sets? Was it a reversion to the norm that they lost both those games, or have they genuinely missed out on an opportunity, do we feel?
I think any time you have two home finals and lose both, it's a nightmare situation. And you can't afford to do that. There will be other chances. I mean, Brisbane did that in COVID. They lost a couple of home finals that really sort of hurt them. And you sort of thought at the time and a few years after that might be their golden chance and it's over. So it will probably come back around for Adelaide. But they know after the 2017 grand final, they thought they'd be back there year after year, and it didn't happen. So any time you have home finals and lose them, it's a disaster, particularly as a non-Victorian team. So they can't be happy at all about how things panned out. They're going to be trying to bring in players, but you never know who will be there next time. Taylor Walker may never play again. So it's a definite missed opportunity.
Yeah, you got to take your chances, don't you, in that sense? And they didn't. They were tight. Like, whether it was a choke, well, whether they were good enough is the other question. But they were really tight. They made so many uncharacteristic mistakes, and the loss of Isaac Rankin really hurt them. So it's going to be hard to get back up the top of that mountain again, Ed, next year. It's no given that they're back in the top four next year, but they really do need to pick up a midfielder.
And they showed almost nothing, really, in both
Zero.
those finals. So they were a team that we were loving the electric attack they had all year. They were third for points, and they just didn't look like kicking.
Well, it didn't win a quarter. So if you go through 8 quarters of a final without winning one, it's just
nobody's ever done
unbelievable.
That in the history of the league.
It's just unbelievable when you think about it. And of course, it was North Melbourne in 1983. They finished on top and went out. But at least North Melbourne probably gave a bit of a yelp. I didn't think we got a yelp at all from the Crows.
Well, maybe Christian Petrarca would help them there. If they're sounding him out, it seems likely that they will come out of this trade period with a relatively big fish.
They're cashed up. They've got a bit of cash there left there with no Nazire, so they've got a bit of money.
Well, we'll turn our attention to Geelong Hawthorn on Friday night. We probably should, and I want to raise this.
There is a shaking already with nerves.
From a Geelong perspective, there seems to be a genuine angst that Hawthorn have made this game. I think the neutrals are either sick of this matchup or quite excited that it's happening again, because we usually get a close one. But Geelong as the favourites the supporters seem a bit wary of Hawthorn.
Yeah, no, it feels awful. As a Geelong supporter, outside of my professional obligations, I was barracking for Adelaide personally quite hard last weekend. Even though my wife is a Hawthorn supporter, my in-laws are Hawthorn supporters. It's just not a good week for me. I was actively barracking for Adelaide. I just don't want to put myself through this situation, Ed. It's 3 hours where it just doesn't feel good. It feels like something's going to go wrong all the time. And throughout that Kennett Kerr sort of era and even beyond, Geelong still hasn't beaten Hawthorn in a knockout final since 1963, and you can just sort of feel that pressure and weight on you. Well, how do you feel? You're a Hawks man.
Well, I've sort of grown up with Hawthorn beating Geelong in the 08 grand final, the best day of my life, and then 5 years of torture as they continually found ways to beat the Hawks. And we might go through a few of those. Were you working at the 08 grand final, Matt?
I absolutely was working. I was pretty close to Shane Crawford. I was, in fact, writing his book at that time, and the book got even better after that. So lucky enough to be in the Hawthorn rooms. And I think in that game, you think about the moments. And I remember when Hawthorn woke up, it was a bright sunny day. They were a young team. They were really confident. It was kill the shark.
Yeah,
Clarko's kill the shark. And to be in the rooms after the game. And I think you think back and you look back at, Stuart Dew and what he was able to do in that, third quarter, which turned the whole game, and Cyril Rioli. It was an amazing performance because Geelong, as you know, Barnsley were almost unbeatable that year.
Yeah, that was the best year of the three, I guess, for Geelong, 07, 09 and 08 and 09. 08, that was the best team they had. That was the best season they had. They only lost once for the entire year. In any other year, they would have won the flag. But alas, we don't have to relive it that much.
Probably some missed chances during the second quarter there.
Absolutely.
In that grand final.
One or two missed chances.
So peppering the goals. They
Cam
didn't
Mooney
miss.
missed a sitter, I think, almost on half time.
Do we have to
didn't
go through all of it, Mako? Is this what we're doing?
There you go. It was good for Shane Crawford. Crawford got
definitely.
to climb the post, and that's what I'm talking about. So great moment in footy.
Yeah, and they didn't miss so often in the following 5 years. And even when they did miss, it was match-winning points like Jimmy Bartels in 09. But we'll turn now to Geelong this week, and a bit of agitation maybe at the Cats at the moment. We saw a really unusual situation with Chris Scott unfold at the end of the qualifying final that emerged from Mick Warner in our paper this week. And it seems that maybe it's been a long season and perhaps beginning to take a toll on the Cats coach.
Yeah, it's interesting how this story developed. Good reporting, as always, by Mick, that it was, I guess, a confrontation before his press conference. Clearly, nobody at Geelong sort of stepped in to stop the situation or diffuse it as they probably should have, and it definitely seemed to have got out of hand. And it's not the only situation. Obviously, Bailey Smith's aggression and abuse towards a Geelong Advertiser reporter, Alison Wind, during the week last week was indefensible, really. It was disgusting behaviour by him for a guy that we all applauded and defended before that incident for his honesty and bravery about his mental health battle, to then act like that towards a reporter who I hold in extremely high respect as someone who worked alongside her for a few years. It's just a disappointing and poor week for Geelong, really. And then you just feel like there hasn't been enough from the AFL about this. Andrew Dillon seemed to brush past it, both incidents during the week when asked about it. It's just, not good enough by the people involved, not good enough by Geelong, and not good enough by the AFL.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Something needed to be done. There needed to be some statement. There needed to be, potentially even a fine. It was just really poor behaviour, and what you need to do to stamp out poor behaviour is get on top of it. And they didn't. They let an opportunity slip, the AFL.
And we'll look now at Collingwood and Brisbane on the Saturday at the MCG as well. A lot of selection rumblings around Jeremy Howe and Bobby Hill. Mackie, you've been out there the last few days. Do you know which way they're leaning on those two?
Yeah. Bobby, we'll start with Jeremy Howe. He got through training and some match sim on Friday and did really well, looked good, and then butted up again today and was good. So I think he's good to go, ready to go. Of course, he's been subbed out 4 times, the last 4 times he's played. So there's that little bit of nervousness there, but he actually looked good. He attacked the ball really well today. I think Bobby Hill's a bit more problematic. I think it's more unlikely than likely. I think that's the situation at the moment. Very lean. He seems to have lost a fair bit of condition in that sense, and just hasn't got the yards in his legs. He's active. He's trying to be out there joking with mates and trying really hard to get under the nose of the coach. But at this stage, I think that he's more unlikely to play. And does that leave the door ajar next week? Or are we in that situation? It's very hard to change a winning team if they get through. And Brody Mychek's the other one as well. Brody Mychek's been carrying that toe issue. He got through. They didn't have it was a bit of a flush out session today, to be honest. It was very, very limited what they do. So I think Bobby Hill won't play, in my view, from as it sits here on Tuesday, but I'm certain that Jeremy Howe will.
Put on your Craig McRae hat, Macca. What are the changes? Who's coming out if Howe's
That's
coming
the
out?
hardest bit, Barnesy, because I was trying to get on top of that today because you've got 2 players. There's 2. It's Rowan Steele or it's Will Parker. You think automatically it would be Parker. He lined up in defence today in the black jumper. We've seen that before. Not often. It sometimes is not the best indication. I would have thought Parker's probably the like for like, but he's a very good player. So it's either of those two.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure which way they're leaning at the moment. You would think that Steele gives them more flexibility from playing in different roles than Parker does. Whether that helps him, we'll soon find out.
Yeah, it's going to be a heartbreak for whoever does get tipped out for Jeremy Howe, obviously. But I think you have to play him. Judging by the numbers, when he plays 50% of a match, they're 14-1 this season for Collingwood, and their defence is 10 points better. So I think you have to pick him. There's a bit of speculation that he's been out for too long or whatever. But
He's got to play if he's right.
If he's passed the fitness test, then you have to pick him up.
So they'll go again on Thursday. Thursday will be the big main training session. It was very light, as I said today. So we'll know more Thursday. But at this stage, I think I've got no reason to think he wouldn't play Jeremy Howe.
And on the other side of the coin, the Brisbane co-captain Lachie Neale is trying to make a push to come back from that calf injury. It looked really nasty in the qualifying final. He was devastated. But Josh, you've got news that he's trying a few left field options to try and get back.
Yeah, well, we all know about the hyperbaric chamber. He's been open about that. But another thing I can present to you, Ed, is that he's got into red light therapy, which is a new one that I hadn't really heard of. I looked it up. Red light therapy is supposed to stimulate growth in your muscles, which would obviously help with recovery. So he's sticking that red light in whenever he can as well to stick it on the calf to get back. I think even he, realistically, Lachie is thinking it's a very, very long shot. I don't think Chris Fagan gives it much of a chance, but Callum Dick, our reporter in Queensland, said on Tuesday that Lachie was running before training, doing a little running session. So that's got to be a good sign. It's going to be a fascinating watch over the next, I guess, week, if they win, obviously, this weekend to get through a granny.
We'll have to have another look. We're doing a bit of red light therapy right now.
Yeah, I was thinking about the
Back
red
of my
light
head's
at the
feeling,
back.
I don't know if it'll help my lack of hair growth, but it's got to be helping something.
I'm feeling very refreshed out here. But a few other left field injury things that we've seen, even this season, we had Nat Fyfe and Stephen Coniglio sharing a few tips about their Botox to fix a couple. I think it was a glute issue that they were both dealing with, where Nat Fyfe had the mail on that and helped Coniglio get back in time for the end of the season. So any others that spring to mind?
The most famous one, I think, is the Max Rook and the calf's blood treatment he received in 2007 to get him back for his really wobbly hamstrings at the time. He went over to see the famous Dr. Hans in Germany, got some injections of calf blood into the muscle, and somehow that worked. And he got back and played pretty well, and that granny won a flag. So it's definitely one of the most famous. Robert Harvey as well, Macca jumped off his kitchen table a couple of times on a plantar fasciitis. That was famous.
Yeah, famous. And it worked. It was pretty painful, but it worked.
It was the only way to snap the plantar fascia to make it properly heal, I think, is the secret behind that. And sometimes it doesn't go well. Ed, we know Jared Grant got stung by a stingray while doing recovery at the beach one time. So you got to be careful, I guess, if you're trying to heal yourself.
That's no good when that happens. Whatever they do in Qatar as well, really
That's
interesting.
The one. Yeah,
Essendon
Dr.
sending
Ender King, they like to go. There's been quite a few that have gone. Jordan De Goey last November was in Qatar, and I think Josh Gibcus went. There's quite a few of them do that. There's I think speaking to Dr. Peter Larkins last week, he said you sit around, it's very casual. It's sit around by the pool and get a bit of massage treatment, bit of Pilates. Sounds pretty
nice.
good.
Yeah,
I reckon
like
this show needs to go there at some stage.
It seems to work for some. It didn't really work for the Essendon guys this year. They all seem to fall over again.
Yes.
I remember in pre-season, Matt Guelphy was running up and down hills, which you don't see very often these days.
Yes.
Because of his hamstring injury, and then he pinged it again 2 games back. So sometimes the hard work you can do doesn't really help.
Now it's time for quick hands. And Josh, as we go to air, you're about to go and try a custom-designed Billy Frampton pizza. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, somebody had to do it. I mean, I really drew the short straw on this one. This is the hard-hitting journalism you get. So at Freddy's Pizza Place on Chapel Street, Windsor, there is a Framptonelli on the menu. You can't get it through Uber Eats, Ed. You have to go there in person.
Limited edition.
Yeah, it's basically like a capriciosa, but with pancetta instead of ham and a bit of artichoke on there as well. Are you guys pro olives or anti olives on your?
I'm an anti-olive, to be honest.
Pro. Massively pro.
Billy Frampton says I'm massive on olives, and that's on the pizza too. I'm anti-olives, I think.
Okay,
That's why we're a good combination, Ed.
I'm on team Billy with that one. Happy to collaborate with him on future pizza designs.
Can report back on a taste test maybe next week.
We'll do. And Mackie, you've been doing some actual football journalism, which is very helpful to the team.
that?
But you've been speaking to Steele Sidebottom this week.
Yeah, love speaking to Steele. He's absolute star. He's probably one of my favourite players of all time because he's just a decent guy as well. I really like Steele. And he's actually forecast that we know he's got a contract for next year as well. He hasn't ruled out, I think he'll end up playing, he's 50 for Kingupner, I reckon. But he hasn't ruled out playing for Collingwood in 2027, which would push him close to the 400 barrier. And you think that Collingwood, at the start of last year didn't have a 400 game player. Pendle's obviously got there later in the year. Maybe if they have 2, it'd be awesome. But he's taking it. He's taking it one season obviously at a time, but he wants to play on for as long as he possibly can. And the way he's going at the moment, you wouldn't be sure that he couldn't do it.
Yeah, would you right now if you had to take the over under? Did you get to 400?
All I would say is it depends on how Collingwood is travelling next year. We know that winning, if he can continue that, I think he could. He's the sort of guy who could play forward. He's got uncanny goal craft. So I reckon what he's got left in him is that when the midfield side of it is gone, he can play sort of forward pocket, half forward. I've never seen a guy use the ball in a lot of ways. A round goal as good as Steel Sidebottom has.
Well, he went to half forward in the final.
I think he can.
In the qualifying final, he played at half forward, which
Correct.
he probably hasn't done all year.
No.
He kicked 3, including in crucial times.
No,
so
he's a star.
He can play almost anywhere. Before we move on, Ed, everyone was talking about it last week, your grand final.
Yes.
Here it was a thriller. You've dragged yourself in from Mad Monday shenanigans, all that sort of stuff for our recording. Talk us through it.
It was one of the great arm wrestles, and I still haven't fully wound down from the final quarter.
Neither have we.
Have you been home yet, Ed? Have you been home?
Briefly to pick up my Code Sports polo top and ditch the premiership medal.
Very good.
It was hard to take it off. But St Mary's Legion, we had a 6-point lead, 3-quarter time over the Old Yarra Cobras out at Kerry Ground. Very swirly breeze. They probably had the breeze in the last quarter. I think they kicked 6 behinds, we kicked 3. It was just an arm wrestle in
and
the
your
final
own
term.
performance?
Completely goalless. Took a couple of decent clunks at the end of the game and immediately turned the ball over both times. So I'd say I broke even. Shout out to my direct opponent, Anthony Razzo, I think his name is, kicked more than a quarter of the goals for the day. I'm going to say that I was only responsible for one of them. On review, it might end up being 2 or 3. But he was fantastic. And I think copped a nasty hit and might have wound up in hospital at the end of the game. So I hope you're doing all right, mate. It was an excellent performance. And the St Mary's Legion boys, just a special day.
Are we talking Leo Barry style marks in the last quarter in the back pocket?
No, I'm sort of a jump off 2 steps operator.
Burke, you star.
A lot of the coaches I speak to during the week wouldn't like me in their team. I suspect just the way I approached the contest. But no, it was fantastic. Really special group of
Winners
players.
don't apologise, Ed. That's all I say.
I do need to shout out my fellow defenders, Josh Saloom, who won the best on ground medal, bailed me out all season. He was fantastic. Hamish McMillan, a big fan of the Code AFL show, took a couple of massive grabs on the wing in the dying moments. But it was a special performance.
Wonderful. Great job, Ed.
No, thank you very much. We can wrap it up on
I
that
think that's
note.
all we need to talk about once we've gone through your grand final. That's all that matters.
Go through the VAFA. That was the key at the end, the VAFA lower divisions. I think Nathan Jones won a flag in Div 1, so I won't see him next season, unfortunately. He's off to Premier C, so
quick
good
tip
on Nathan.
smacker. Who's winning both games?
I've got to put him in early, don't I? That's good. I'll go Geelong just to keep
You're
you
the tipping
happy.
expert here.
No, I'm not the tipping expert. I'm starting to wobble late, and I'll tip Collingwood, but it wouldn't surprise me to go the other way. I've got Hawks wrong all the way through this final series. I really like them, so...
Yeah. Cats and pies for me, but I don't feel great about it.
No.
Yeah, Geelong, Collingwood. But yeah, just with Brisbane all year, I've struggled to tip the Lions, and whenever I go against them, they tend to bounce back. So let's see how that unfolds. Well, thank you for joining us for the Code AFL show. Thanks, Macca. Thanks, Barnesy. It's been fantastic to have you. And we'll see what unfolds in this week of preliminary finals. You can follow along all our coverage on the Herald Sun and Code Sports websites. Thank you very much.